Up we go.
Why do I do this? Why do I do this? Why do I do this?
Okay, so here's the deal. After I made that last video, I started thinking about my videos and what I've been doing with them lately, and felt like I was kind of falling into a formula, like, okay, I'm gonna do this and this and this, and it's gonna be the same way I edit stuff. Sometimes time-lapse, sometimes regular, all that stuff. I mean, you guys have seen my videos, so I thought it's getting kind of to be the same all the time. I wanted to do something a little bit different for the next one. Since making that last video, I've been kind of waiting out the weather. I did some more adjustment on the idle. I did an adjustment. I did a ground run with the cowling off, and it still needed more adjustment, so I taxied back. Actually did some adjustment on the linkage at the fuel servo, then did some more tests. Pretty happy with the result. I get the idle down to where I want it now. The weather was too low to do the kind of flying I wanted to do, so I didn't fly that day. I obviously put it back together and tucked it away. I've been looking forward to all the flying that I have planned for this summer. There's going to be all kinds of trips that I hope to be able to make. So I've been doing flight planning for those. Also looking forward to flying over to Windsor to meet Steve and Dave and my friends over there at the Canadian Aviation Museum. So I've been getting my ducks in a row for making that journey. I've got my CAN pass documentation. I've studied, how to deal with it on the Canadian side. I've done some homework on the U.S. Customs. I've talked to the customs across the field and found out what kind of stuff they want and what to expect. They said it was fairly simple, but I need to, hang on, Jet. But I need to file an ICAO flight plan, and there's also an E-APIS form that needs to be filled out for Customs and Border Patrol. So I've been kind of wrapping my head around all that. So my original plan for the next flight, as you saw on the opening screens, is did homework. I need to get some more flight parameter numbers to file a proper ICAO flight plan. Matter of fact, one of the things I did is contact Jason at Aerotronics, because I needed to know exactly, the way they put the ICAO equipment designations is really confusing. So I talked with Jason at Aerotronics and figured out, okay, what designations apply to my plan based on what equipment I have and what don't, and so we figured all that out. So I got all those plugged into the ICAO flight plan parameters for my aircraft. I'll probably be filing through 1-800-WX brief. So I got it all dialed in there. I've got it all dialed in on my iPad. But there's a couple of things that I still needed. I needed to confirm climb rate, descent rates, and fuel burns so that I could have those plugged into the flight plans. So I, made up a knee board of parameters, and my plan was to head north from here towards Tuscola, do the flight parameters to fill out the missing blanks here, and get that done on the way to Tuscola. And then from there I was going to go from Tuscola over to Ionia County nice long stretch, kind of heading into the sun. It's going to level off at 6,500 and just have a talk with the camera, because I wanted to really start talking about, you know, what I'm doing with all this. In fact, I made a second sheet for notes, you know, because I will be the first to admit I'm prone to brain farts, and when it comes, especially when it comes to spur of the moment voice work, like I'm stumbling through right now. You know, I wanted to talk a little bit more about, I've been thinking a lot about why I do what I do. So far I've got 53 RV8 related videos on my channel, and there's a lot more in my archives. And there's kind of a sameness, it's become formulaic, and it's like, I didn't think I was going to videotape every single flight, but I found myself kind of compelled to do it. Just like the insane documentation I did on my build. I mean, jeez. It would take you months to read all the daily build log entries as well as all the build blogs. I mean, that's insane how much documentation. And it's like, why do I feel like I have to make a video on every flight? And why do I feel like I need to share it? These are the kind of things I wanted to talk about while I was flying. But unfortunately, this is what the airport has looked like a lot lately. The sun's not going to be up for another, 45 minutes or so. We got a little dusting of snow. Not bad, but I don't want to fly with snow on the ground. I just don't. I want to keep my plane as clean and dry as I possibly can throughout its entire existence. We've had a lot of low ceilings. We've had a couple of brief breaks in the weather, but it hasn't worked out timing-wise. I gotta wait until it's really clean and dry before I want to fly again. So here I am back in my office, trying to keep busy and productive and entertained, and trying to scratch this creative itch that's starting to feel like a tick burrowing into my skin. Dreaming about flying is fun, but it's no substitute for flying. When I find myself in these situations, I find myself worrying a lot. When I was building the airplane, I thought completion would be all sweetness and flight, but it's different. I didn't realize how much I was taking on when I accepted the challenge of building this airplane. Building, owning, and flying. And there's times I feel pretty overwhelmed by it all. It doesn't help that I'm not young anymore. I'm going to be I'm starting to have aging issues. My memory isn't quite as good as it used to be. I'm trying to stay healthy, but it gets harder. I've got arthritis, I've got other issues, and blah blah blah. It's a fine line between passion and affliction, medicine and sickness. I feel like I'm in a rabbit hole and I've dragged you down with me, kicking and screaming. I don't have a whole lot of flying experience. I'm just over 540 hours now, and it's not much, especially considering what I'm thinking about taking on in that trip. Flying's nothing like driving. I had this thought that you could just hop in the plane and go, just like you do in a car, and it's not like that. You got to do a lot of thinking in advance. You got to do a lot of planning. You got to worry about weather a whole lot more, especially when you're a VFR flyer like me. I really have to make sure that I know what I'm doing before I do it. because you're up in the air. You can't mess around when you're up in the air. You can't pull over. I promised myself I was going to fly conservatively, not get reckless, not get into situations that can kill me. And I'm pretty true to that, but another aspect is the fact that I have not instilled the level of good habits that I wanted to. I'm still pretty sloppy on my checklist stuff. I really think I need to revisit Jason Miller's Finer Points Ground School and kind of force myself to instill the kind of flying habits like checklists and all the disciplines that I've been kind of lazy about. I wanted to treat this whole thing like an artistic endeavor, like go with where my heart takes me. But this has got to be more of a brain exercise than a heart exercise. You got to be smart about this. This is a job that needs to be done extremely well if you're going to survive it. I wanted to do this in the cockpit to provide a much better context for exploring these thoughts and feelings, and because that's not possible, it's morphed into a project that's completely different from what I envisioned, and I don't know what to make of that. And you don't know what to make of any of this. So I'll seek out other creative activities like making this video. You've heard that tale before. I keep thinking about this tour of gratitude. You know, that was always my dream, to build the airplane and fly it back to California, to land at Palo Alto where I learned to fly, and then do all the exploring in California that I wanted to do and see all my old friends. And it's grown into a much bigger thing now because there's so many other places I want to stop to thank the people that helped me on that journey. And now I've turned it into this monster. Something that I'm not sure I can do. There's times when I'm just driven. I want to just get in the plane and go and just time the weather and snake my way through and make this happen, no matter how long it takes me. And then when I do the complete tour, I can come home, and just like I said at the end of building, everything else is cake. You know, after that, the pressure's off. I will have achieved all my goals. Well, there's always another goal, isn't there? And there's the financial aspect of it. Now that I'm flying the airplane, I'm not absolutely certain I can afford to own it. I really honestly don't know how long I'll be able to keep it. Those are all the little worries that end up piling up in my head. So just like when I was building the airplane, my motto was keep my head down and keep building. Well, now it's keep my head down and keep trying to fly. So yeah, things are getting pretty existential here. Of course, the OCD is a problem. I'm sitting there even just making this video and I'm thinking about, I've shot a bunch of different scenes and I got to clip them all together, and what about discontinuity? Well, I don't care about discontinuity. God, I am so up my own ass. Okay, enough of this. Let's get out to the shop and I'll show you what I'm doing on the wheel fairings. So this is what the shop looks like nowadays. Working on repairing and modifying the wheel fairings. So much work here. So much needs to be done. This is what they looked like after flying last summer. This is what I've achieved so far. got to finish configuring that overlap. I've got to smooth out all those joints. This is going to be a lot of work. And I'm putting it off because I just don't like doing this work. I almost resent having to do it after, quote, finishing them, even though they never were really finished. I really wish I could farm this out. I wish I could just send it to a shop and say, okay, this is what I'm giving you to work with, finish it. I can't afford that. And anyway, these have to be custom fit to the legs, you know. Now that I've got these joints, you could see by that other assembly that when I cut these lower intersection fairings in half, they kind of sproined on me. So they don't just sit where they're supposed to be in a relaxed state. And I also have to see, when I slide this onto the gear leg, how much that'll pull these out to put them in the shape where they used to be. And there's so much sanding and carving and shaping and smoothing and then painting. I really don't want to have to set up the booth for this because that's such a huge pain in the ass. But I do want these on the airplane this summer. So as much as I detest it and as much as I've been putting it off, I've got to get this work done. Well, these parts aren't going to finish themselves. I better get to work.
I hate this job! I hate this job!
Worked for a while, didn't achieve much. Okay, I think it's about time I put this video out of your misery. This isn't at all what I originally intended to produce, and I sincerely apologize for exposing you to this train wreck. I promise I will never do it again.
I can't use any of this.